Hey, Legal Rebels, this is Tom Martin. I'm the founder of LawDroid, and this is my podcast, LawDroid Manifesto, where I interview legal innovators about how they do what they do.
In this episode, I interview Philip Fairley, the president of Rainmaker Institute, a legal marketing firm that uses data to improve lawyers' bottom lines and quality of life. Hey there, welcome to the LawDroid Manifesto podcast. I'm Tom Martin, your host, and I'm really excited today that I have as my guest Philip Fairley, who is the president of the Rainmaker Institute, which is a data-driven marketing firm for small to medium law firms. And without further ado, Phil?
Thanks, Tom. I really appreciate being on here. I was excited to meet it, and I remember speaking with you on our first time about some cool things that you're doing in your technology and your business mind. And so I was like, that's when kind of the start of our relationship. But here at Rainmaker, Tom's right, we're very data-driven. We help law firms grow. And the only way you can do that predictably or to kind of future-proof your investments or whatever your marketing or nurturing or activities are is to use data. The difference between the big law firms and the ones that are smaller, the ones that are the owners are working a lot of hours and making a lot of gut decisions, is the difference because one of them is looking at data to make those decisions to be more efficient. And then the other one is just kind of approaching it like an attorney instead of how you would like a business owner.
One of the reasons why I've been so excited to talk with you today and have everyone learn from you is that you're such an expert when it comes to law and marketing, putting the two things together and then using that data-driven approach to make it not only something that we feel is the right thing to do, but that we know from actually looking at data that we're on the right track. And I think, as a lawyer myself who's done marketing for my own firm, I know that many times we could feel kind of adrift, that we don't really know if the marketing that we're doing has any effect or if we're just throwing money down a hole. So
yeah, and too often for these small firms, when I say small firms, usually under 5 million in revenue, too often you'll have a really good lead source that's covering up bad lead sources that you're paying a lot of money for, right? Where that money could be used for another intake or another paralegal or another associate. So ultimately, the whole idea with putting data behind as much as we can, it's practical data, not, if you ever logged into Google Analytics, there's 500 dashboards and 10,000 numbers. You're like, I don't know how to read that story. But when you look at a couple of different pieces of data in a practical manner, and you look at them on a consistent basis, month over month over month, year over year, trends, and then you break it down by a couple different areas like practice areas, things like that. When you look at a couple of these data points, it really takes all the guesswork out because there's so much things that are changing in marketing. Like that's on the forefront where AI is radically changing the access, the content, the methods, the platforms, the creation of the content. And I'm not sure what's going to be working, in June of 2025 next summer or the year beyond that. But what you can be sure of is watching the data, watching the trends, see what's going up, see what's working, what's resonating, and then kind of fail fast. So this whole level of expertise, I appreciate you saying that, but I think I was really lost with some of these ideas about what's the best way to generate revenue or turn a lead into a client. And then looking at the numbers, it really tells a pretty distinct and easy story if you know how to interpret it. And that was really the whole driver with this. Instead of looking at clicks and impressions, those are great. You talk to marketers, they're like, that's the golden ticket. You talk to a business owner, and they're like, how many qualified leads show up to my consultation? That's a number I need to know, not impressions. And so tagging and looking at some of these numbers that are pretty practical, and the ones that we look at, really, you just look at the stages of your sales funnel. Now, some of you may say, we don't have a sales funnel, right? Tom, in your firm, you're like, I don't have a sales funnel. Well, everyone has it. Everybody has a customer journey. It's from when a lead contacts your firm or starting to look for a need that they have in the legal space and how they turn into a client. That's your sales funnel. Whether you define it or not, some are like spaghetti, some are, I don't know, whatever it takes. But when you define those stages, then you put numbers behind them. So the stage is real basic, and you can get more sophisticated, but you start out with lead. Okay, I can track every lead that comes in, but it better be good, bad, and ugly leads, not just the good leads. Then you track how qualified leads. Then how many of those set an appointment of your qualified leads? How many of those showed up for an appointment? That's your fifth number to track, or fourth number to track. Your fifth number, how many turned into a client? By just tracking that, you now know what your appointment set rate is for your intake. You know what your close rates are for your attorneys. You know what your qualified leads are from Google local service ads if you're in the States, or another marketing campaign, or from a referral partner. By tracking 5 numbers and looking at them every single month, you're like, oh my goodness, why am I doing that still? I thought it was good, but it's not. But then you can also take that philosophy and apply that to your law firm operations too, like from time on desk, hours, results, things like that. And then tracking a couple of these numbers, it really starts to sing a song, and all you got to do is listen to it.
Well, you anticipated where I was going, and I think that's all good stuff, and I definitely want to unpack that, because I think that's what sets you apart from a lot of other marketing, which is just kind of say and pray. Like, you just get it out there and you just pray that it gets you some good results. So I want to get into the backstory a little bit, understand your origin in terms of your educational background and also your technology background. I think that's something that maybe people don't appreciate or know about you as much. And so if you could share with us your story in terms of getting your MBA and then your early technology positions.
It's a very unique journey. I think everybody has a unique story. This past Christmas and New Year's, I was able to bring my family back to where I grew up in Maine, and the day we left, I had breakfast with an elementary friend. Gotta love Facebook. And he looked at my teenage daughters and my wife, and he's like, "Your dad is so crazy. At the age of 9 years old, he said he wanted to be a judge on the Supreme Court." This was not prompting. I'm like, I had a very interesting attraction to certain things when I was young. And so I wanted to go to law school. And I went to undergrad, and I was political science, and that was really my driver. And then I fell into technology. I was, slinging drinks through college because that's what I had to do. Then somebody came in and said, "Hey, we've got this new technology, and it will run restaurants, and restaurants, and nobody knows technology, so we'll teach you." And this was in the mid 90s. And so that was starting my journey. I was like, "Hey, I'll stop law school for a minute," because they started just throwing money at anybody who was interested. And I just fell in love with it. And then I went into the financial world, and then I migrated into the legal space, working with the small business owners, like installing, this may date me, like needle servers, like their practice management in closets in like South Ohio. Like this was where we were starting, like using PC Anywhere and dial-up connections and fax server. Like that's where it started. And it was just intriguing to me how tech could affect business. And then I just got the bug. And so I started my own firm because, of course, like some of you listening here that have their own law firm, they're like, "I can do it better than my current boss or this guy or this gal over here." And then you understand there's a lot more to running a law firm or a business than actually doing that work that you're good at. That's called the technician, right? Not the owner. So with that, I started to get more involved with legal tech because it was just coming onto the scene. And law firms were really, really needy for these services. And it just kind of went and went through that whole iteration. And that's how I ended up not going to law school, but working with attorneys, because technology and attorneys, it's always been one of the last adopters, right? Last to the cloud. We can't put anything, yet your bank and online trading and FINRA and all these, right? But HIPAA compliance, medical, but not our, right? Because their license is pretty important to them with their bar associations or their governing authority, right? And so they've been kind of last to adopt. but there is just so many things in law firms that are so prime, just like what you do, Tom. They're prime for technology or automation. So that's how I started out my career and came into tech, and then migrated into the legal space.
That's so interesting. And you're completely on point, of course, about lawyers and technology. It seems to me sometimes we're almost like opposite charged magnets where you like try to push them together and they just won't.
Right, right.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I agree with you. And I see the hesitancy now, even for simple things that you can, repeatable tasks that you can replace in your firm. There's still a, but wait, right? All the while, the new attorneys that just sat for the bar and got their degree just opened their first law firm and built their firm with all that automation and tech in there. While some of the more established ones are like, I'm just going to hold off for a minute. See how this cloud thing plays out, or AI thing plays out.
Yeah, it might be around for a while.
Maybe a couple minutes.
Before we move on from that, though, I do want to get into it a little bit more about the early positions. Like, so how, for example, did your business degree affect, like, how did you make that transition from that to working in tech positions? And then how, going from tech positions, did you come about transitioning to the legal tech part of it? Like, just a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so my undergrad, and then I got to work after that. And then I married, wife, then kids, started my business, and then came to a shelf, like a ceiling in my business. Certain revenue, certain amount of employees. Didn't really know else how to break that. Never had the benefit of a mentor, because I was like, I can just do this myself. I don't need a mentor. I honestly should have been an attorney, because a lot of them take that approach, and rightly so, but there's always the need for that coaching or mentoring. So then I was like, I need more education. I need to go get a business education. And that's what took me to Northwestern to get that, because I thought this is one of the best universities in the world. And they're going to teach me really the best approach to growing business. Now, there was 2 tracks at that time. They just started entrepreneurial tracks, because before then it was a lot of corporate type of business, and that didn't apply, because at that time I had a handful of employees, and I was working with dozens of small businesses, and 50 to 100 of them at the time, but it was capped. And so that really helped me understand, you know what, my job is not being the best technician or the one that can sketch out a multi-law firm location with antiquated 90s Windows 95 technology and have them all communicate well together in a secure environment. That's not the best use of my time. The best use of my time is building services that are repeatable, hiring a management and a leadership team, and then running the business. And that was just like a light bulb. And then the combination of working with so many businesses, hundreds personally at that time, seeing their business struggles and their technical struggles and their legal struggles running their firm, I got a real hands-on exposure to ones that were good, ones that were not so good, ones that you would be surprised that that's how they operated their business. So it really gave me a lot of different flavor and approaches to business, that on top of a really top-notch education. But by the way, I wouldn't recommend doing it when you have 2 kids in diapers. That's not always the most efficient use of your time. But, you do what you have to do when you're a business owner, right? But that really affected my outlook in saying, it's not the services and the value, that's important, but it's really, I've got to run this like a business, or I'm just a fancy consultant with a couple assistants. And so that really turned the page for me, 100%.
And from there, the jumping off point that was to the Rainmaker Institute. So you founded that, and you shared this with me earlier, because I hung out my own shingle in 2006 and I knew about you, but you actually established Rainmaker Institute 25 years ago.
Well, Tom, at that time, it was my brother and myself being very big entrepreneurs growing up on a dirt road. And let me tell you, we both moved away because dirt road's not a good place for commerce. So we knew that there's something better. But we were both very driven in a family that had never gone to school, or education wasn't a purpose or a goal in their life. So while I was growing and building my technology firms that then leaned heavily into the legal space and the financial, my brother is actually the one that started Rainmaker Institute. And he was an executive coach. And then he started teaching people how to run businesses. And then the Wisconsin Bar Association heard of him because at the time we were living in Chicago. He had his family and I had mine, and we both kind of were best friends. So we were really close and moved multiple cities. So while he was building that, I was building my firm. And then, unfortunately, back in 2016, I still get a lot of chills because we got a phone call, one of those dreaded phone calls. I bet a lot of you here have had those phone calls, maybe from a spouse. Those are hard. From a partner, those can be very difficult. This one was from my brother. And it was the real bad kind of phone call where he let us know that he was diagnosed with pretty aggressive cancer.
Oh,
So being best friends in each other's wedding, godchildren of my kids, living together in Maine, New Hampshire, Virginia, Chicago, then Phoenix, all living within 15, 20 miles of each other in those cities, just being so close together, it was really devastating. So I'm a man of faith. So got on my knees with my family and my sister and my mom and my wife and needed some direction. And at that time, what I thought was best for our family, we just made a decision and then we executed it. So within 10 weeks of that phone call, I had sold my house, 2 businesses. One was a voice over IP phone company, and the other was an IT, like a managed services for law firms. And sold my house, sold both of my businesses, one of them to my partner. One of them, it took a little bit longer to sell. And packed up everything and moved down here to Phoenix, not knowing what we would do, but knowing I need to be by my brother and take care of him. My idea was to kind of start something in a little bit different vein. And then obviously when we found out that it was a very significant diagnosis, and we're like, hey, we need a legacy. We need a plan B, because a lot of other people that don't have their estate planned well or continuity plan for their business, we did not. And so taking care of him, learning the business, thinking I was done with tech, Tom, but within 12 months of coming to Rainmaker, we had a new automated intake system and a BI tool that we developed. So bring back tech again, but then just evolved it. And then unfortunately, it's been almost 4 years since he's passed. He fought really hard for 3 years. And since that time, I love the opportunity to continue his legacy, because he was such a titan in this industry. He really was the first person in the legal space to get out there and teach law firm owners how to run it like a business, to understand that intake is sales, to understand that processes are repeatable and scalable, right? Running your business with numbers. He took those ideas, and what I've been able to do is really evolve them to meet the current landscape and the needs. Similar type of recipe, vastly different ingredients. And so it's been really, it's been very therapeutic when I talk to people that have worked with my brother, Rainmaker, at the time. But it's been really a blessing to me and my family to be able to continue this. I do get mistaken a lot for his son, which at the time when he was alive, that still happened. And we would always chuckle. He would not. I would. But that was kind of the transition into Rainmaker, and then seeing the opportunity for helping law firms grow on marketing and intake and process and automation. I was like, okay, there's a lot of fruit to be picked. And so that's really what we've been busy doing ever since. And that's kind of the interesting transition to Rainmaker.
well, I'm sorry to hear about your brother, but at the same time, it's a beautiful story of you being there for him and then making that transition into something that you were able to bring your own meaning to and take on and carry forward his legacy.
I'm a big proponent of understanding the why of people. And this has just given it a whole nother layer for me personally, right? I've always been passionate about business owners. Everything I've done in my life is to support, help grow business. And because I think I'm passionate about them, because I know what it's like to sign the front of a check. And I know what it's like to sign in front of a check when you can't sign one for you, right? When there's not enough money for payroll, but you have to pay your staff or your bills or whatever it may be. That's why I have the haircut. I took a lot of haircuts, Tom. Right. But through all of those, I've just become even more passionate. And now just being so hyper focused just in the legal space, it's really opened up nuanced opportunities that a generalist could never uncover. So, and it's been a blessing to do it. I love it.
So with that, I'd like to get my hands around what Rainmaker Institute does now, like the kinds of services that you offer. I understand it's data driven, but let's get into a little more specifics about the kind of services that you offer and how that's been working for lawyers.
Yeah, great question. The first thing we do is we help generate leads, quality leads for clients, right? A lot of marketing companies out there, when we were doing it, we were the only one. Then came Scorpion, then Novel. There's a lot of competition now, and I get it, I understand. So we help generate leads for clients. 2 years ago, we did something in the history of Rainmaker, 25-year history, by the way, this year, which is amazing. I think, especially since we're in the legal space, I was mentioning before, that's dog years to me. So you just multiply that times 7. But we did something in the history of Rainmaker we never did. We purchased a company out of California, a video production company. And so not just we generate leads with Google, with pay-per-click, with websites, with traditional, with SEO, we do those really well. But one of the things that I saw a big need for about 3.5 years ago that I actually tried to build out, found out that I couldn't execute it, and then we found a company that we could, and then we purchased them, is creating continual video and just using it on every channel. Because attorneys are so adverse to video because it's complicated. They don't know how to shoot it. They don't know how to record it. They don't know how to put it out, right? So conquering all of those and offering up as a service, I have to tell you, that's been 60% of our new growth this year, Tom. Just
Wow.
this year. Yeah, 60% of our new growth. Last year, it was about 45% of our new growth. So on the marketing, it's way more than traditional. It's a lot of modern omni-channel marketing, taking one video and creating blog, newsletter, shorts, reels, website, nurturing emails to turn leads into clients, just repurposing it everywhere. And it's been a really high return on investment for our clients because we know we all watch more video. The other thing that Rainmaker's always been really known for is our intake. Looking at intake as a sales process, taking intake and turning that into a money-making activity for a law firm instead of an afterthought that they put the grumpy person up front or the receptionist that answers the phone, right? Because we get our clients to understand that intake is in charge of your cash flow. It determines whether they set an appointment with you or someone else. I don't care how many billboards you have, how good your website is, how good your videos are. If your intake is subpar, that's going to affect your cash flow. And so we started that, Tom, because we were generating great leads and our clients would come to us and be like, these leads suck. We're going to fire you. We're like, okay, hold on for a second. We pull the covers back. And we're like, oh my gosh, I'll give you an example how times have not changed because we've been doing intake systems for 15 years. Just this past spring, we were working with a personal injury firm in South Florida, one of the most competitive, most expensive personal injuries, doing a highly competitive pay-per-click campaign with video retargeting. They spent about $17,000 and we got them over 90 leads from that spend. In South Florida, they were like, no, this is terrible. We didn't get one client from them. We pulled the covers back and not one of them were called the same day. Not one of those leads were actually touched more than once if they were touched at all. And some of them were fill out a form. Hey, I was hurt and I was in an accident. I need help. They're like, well, that's not a legitimate lead. So when our clients started telling us our leads are terrible, that's why so many marketing companies, Tom, in our space come and go. The people you see all over your Facebook feed now, 2 years from now, they will not be here. I guarantee I've seen it all. Why? Because they're like, we're just going to feed you more leads. We're going to give you more leads. Some of them get even trickier. I sell you clients. I'm like, yeah, okay. Why don't you sell them to your own firm, create your own firm and make your billion-dollar firm instead? Okay, I get you. But they were like, what? It's not about the leads. It's about the clients. So what are you doing? And they're like, we need more leads. You got to double it. We need 180 leads. What are you doing with the leads you're already getting? So we just laid out, here's how you have to nurture and manage every single lead. Because not everyone's ready to buy. Not everyone's ready to move forward. Maybe they're just, whatever, they go home and think about it. They would stop marketing. We'd do the marketing to lead gen. And then when they would become a lead, they'd contact their firm, then they'd stop their marketing. And so we're like, well, your marketing just changes from lead generation to lead nurturing. So that's what our intake system does. That's what your intake should. It's marketing. It's just marketing to leads that haven't taken the next step in your stage in your funnel. And your marketing is to keep pushing them down, not talking guttural or the 4-letter word sell. I'm talking realistic. It's to help push them down to the next stage. Lead to qualified lead, to appointment set, to show up, to have the consultation, hire them at the consult or hire them after, each of these stages. Your marketing and your nurturing, your text, your email, your phone calls, your approach, it's just marketing to those leads, the most expensive leads you will ever get because they responded to your marketing, but yet you ignore them. And that's why we created that system. And that's just propelled into so many different areas. So we meet with our clients every month and help them interpret their numbers, because these numbers I was talking about, they change, right? What was working 6 months ago is not working right now, like Google LSA ads right now. And I don't know if this will be dated for this podcast episode, but right now, if you're not getting 1 to 2 new 5-star reviews on your Google business profile here in the States, then you're not getting any LSA calls anymore. And people were getting LSA calls for $20, $30, $40, $50 and getting clients for that. But all of a sudden they stopped working. Well, if you weren't looking at your numbers, you wouldn't know that, and you'd continue to spend. And then you got a new referral partner over here that just sent you 5 leads every month for the last 3 months. You're like, hey, my marketing's working. And like, well, hold on. So that's why we created the lead generation and lead nurturing system. And it means so much else, because when we consult with our clients, we're really forcing them to run their business with numbers.
Wow. So it sounds to me like you're involved in the entire spectrum of client acquisition, from like the top of the funnel where you create video marketing, then you repurpose it for, content on the website, for sending out email marketing sequences, like all of that. And then on top of it, getting them to interact, schedule a call, following up with them, which is probably the most important part, reaching out quickly. Like, so your firm handles that entire.
A to Z. And then we tie it all together in Rainalytics and meet with them every month to tell them what's working and what's not. Like your intake is only at like a 63% set rate. It needs to be at least 75 or 80%. So let's train them some more. Like your attorneys can't close. This marketing that you're paying a lot of money for stopped working. Like this is the process that you need to be changing. And those numbers fluctuate, right? And so that's what we have our whole team. They're either attorneys or have an MBA as well. They meet with our clients on a monthly basis and interpret their numbers from their marketing, from their intake, right? And so then when they become a client, we're like, okay, now it's your turn, attorney. Go to work, right? Now it's your turn.
Okay, so the Rainalytics, just to be clear for the listeners here, now that's a component that goes on top of all of this that makes sense of the numbers, how many leads you're getting, what kind of conversion rate, and then working to make it better. Is that right?
Yes, it's a data tool that's set up for 2 different types or 3 different types of people. We have some that are set up for the owner's dashboards. Here's what the owner's numbers need to be. Here's what the intake manager or the intake staff need to be. And if you have a marketing team or you use marketing vendor, here's how to hold your marketing accountable. So it doesn't just give your numbers, but we help hold your team accountable with the meetings. It's like, hey, this intake person, this attorney, this marketing, this lead source, whatever it may be, it just gives the numbers so you as the owner can see them whenever you want. Then when we meet on a monthly basis, we're interpreting those numbers, teaching you how to interpret them, forcing you to make decisions, employee decisions, good and bad. A lot of underperforming staff, we help hold accountable. We help train them, retrain them, and then we're like, you need to replace them. So we get real granular. So when you work with us, we're just helping you increase your revenue. And we have to we can help touch every part of that, because there's too many times in a law firm, especially in the small sub $2 million law firms, that those dots are not connected. And then your leads leak out and you're like, well, I've been stuck at this revenue for the last 10 years and I'm probably going to be here.
Yeah.
We only can do so much work, right? So automate some of it, follow up with these. Make sure everybody's nurtured. So you're right, the total client acquisition. Just because over time we started with one area, Tom, and we just saw the need and then just responded to the client's needs and started getting to work and building out solutions for it, solve it.
So one more element to that I want to learn more about is automation. So is there a part to be played for taking some of those touch points or maybe some of the follow-up and being able to automate that versus having a human staffer do that work?
Yeah. If you're getting more than 10 or 15 or 20 leads a month, you have to look at automation. And here's how you start with automation. You look at something that's repeatable or something that a computer can do or send or post or whatever. And then you're not right away going to know how to do that. And then you spend the next 2 or 3 months and you go figure out how to automate that. You go talk to an expert, you go find a software, you go talk to, right? You just figure it out. And then you're like, okay, that's done. Then you go to your next biggest opportunity. What's the biggest opportunity to nurture? Now, if you're getting 100 leads a month, 500, 800, 1,500, 40 leads, new leads a month, you absolutely need to automate this. So that for the few dollars that it will cost you in the month or two that it takes to design and lay out and set it up, then what you can understand is you get to rest easy at night because all of your leads are nurtured every single time. So what you do is, well, this is how we do it with our clients. A little onboarding here. We break down every practice area. What are all your areas you serve? And then what's every potential touch point with a lead before they become a client? They can even show up to the consultation and be unqualified. They can start here. They can start like everything, every consequence, every touch point. And then what we do is we create a drip campaign for that. So 8 to 10 emails. Somebody doesn't show. Your office is like, if they don't show for the appointment, we don't want them. Others are like, yeah, we want to nurture them. Okay. So we create 8 to 6 content messages, 2 or 3 text messages. And then in our system, those go out automatically when they're like, hey, they didn't show or they didn't set an appointment or whatever their stage may be. And then tasks pop up for your intake people to call. So it automates the whole process. No more sticky notes, no more, do I need to call Jane Doe because I can't remember. They come in the morning, here's their list of tasks, the things to do that happened from the day before, and the system's sending out all of these emails because if, let's just say you have 100 leads a month, then 80 of those are qualified, 60 of those set appointments. You've got 80 to 60 people that you humanly will not be able to follow the track and the stage and give them the right message at the right time. So you mind map it all out before, put it into a system, and then just use it and let technology be the leverage, because it will be like a full-time employee that doesn't ask for a raise and doesn't take a vacation. Like always works. Like you want a couple of those at least.
Yeah, the more help, the better, even if it is, artificial.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you that I think that many times the conversation, the narrative about this is kind of framed about losing jobs versus, not using AI or automation. And I think it's not that simple. Basically, we need to look at not a job per se, but there's certain tasks that all of us do within our jobs that, it's not brain surgery for some of the tasks. And we don't enjoy really doing them because some of them are route, kind of things. And if something else like automation could take care of that, and we could focus on actually having that relationship with the client, finding out if they should be a client, feeling that out, that part, okay, it makes sense for a person to be involved in that, and you'd want to be. So I'm totally on board with your approach. It sounds great.
Well, because now you as a firm can help more people. You can take care of your family better. You can employ your staff at the wage they probably deserve. Everybody's not working 90 hours a week, and it's not like, the movie Wall Street with Michael Douglas, like the sales sweat pit, right? It's not a miserable place that people don't want to be. You automate this, and really what you're doing is you're giving better service to your clients, but actually it's the service they expect because they buy from Amazon and watch Netflix. And law firms are so far removed from making any type of transaction smooth, buying process or communication. The firms that have figured that out are the ones that are on a rocket ship growth. right? Make it easy to hire you. Make it easy to stay up to date with what's going on with my case, right? I'm not asking for a Supreme Court brief once a week, but these are the things that I need. And those type of things, like your practice management software, should be automating those updates to your current clients, right? You've got some really interesting tools, Tom, that you've developed and use in your own firm that leverage automation and AI that perform duties that maybe all the law firms can't afford, don't need, or are not ready for, right? So why wouldn't you leverage new tools just because it's not a medical vaccine, this new technology or new invention? It's AI and automation, and those are not the same. Those are different, right? We've been doing automation for 25 years. AI has not been around. You were probably one of the first adopters of AI, Tom. But how long have you been working in it?
Well, it's been over 10 years, but
10 years?
LawDroid's been around for 8, yeah.
8, right? But just because it's not the latest vaccine or the latest whatever it may be, doesn't mean that this innovation is not for attorneys or, gonna take jobs or, I always say that law firms are not going to be replaced. Like your job is not going to be replaced by AI, but you will lose that client to a firm that leverages AI. They'll be cheaper, faster, quicker, and better experience. If you don't want any of that, you know what? I still think down at the Santan Mall here in outside of Scottsdale where I'm at, I think there's a shoe cobbler there, Tom. I don't know if there's any buggy whip makers, but I do have gotten a couple pair of shoes redone. There's a place for that type of a law firm in our culture and economy, but it depends on what you want to do. So just leverage the tools that are around you. Do not be scared of them. Embrace them, but work with somebody that's doing this in a law firm, done it for themselves, or knows what they're doing, because you don't want to take a leap of faith. You want to take calculated approaches to things and try things out in small pieces, because if you don't, I have to tell you, you're welcome to being that shoe cobbler of the law firms, because it's coming fast.
Yeah, there is a place for the artisanal approach, but it's getting less and less and less, it's just that the vast majority of clients are going to get the benefit of people that are more accessible and get the job done more quickly. And if they can get that at a lower price point, they're going to go towards that. It's just like water. It's going to go towards the least resistance. And I love that about what you're doing. The fact that it's the whole package is amazing. I do have a question for you about AI, because it's, all anybody ever talks about right now. But are you currently using it in the services you provide? Are you dabbling in it? Have you experimented with it? Or just how do you think it might be useful?
I just used it this morning myself, because I teach a lot of CLE classes, and this is for, I believe, the combination of Toledo and Ohio State Bar. And they wanted me to give an outline for the CLE application. So I just threw my notes from my presentation in there and said, write this as an outline for submission to a bar for CLE credits. It was perfect. So you should be using it and leveraging it for that. But what I'm talking about, what you're asking, is absolutely, here's some practical ways that we're leveraging it right now. We're seeing clients do it on reviews. Reviews are huge assets for your law firm. If you're not review focused, you're going to be left behind, because that's a big commodity in any type of marketing. So reviews, everyone should be responded to. Negative reviews, respond to. Positive reviews, respond to. Why? Because other people will leave more reviews, and they say, hey, this law firm is active. We have AI generative responses, so they're not all, hey, thank you, glad you're a client. Hey, thanks a lot, right? It's like, hey, pull out something interesting. So we give suggestive chats for those, and you can have them auto posted or review them before, which we highly recommend, but it's just an easy way to do that. The other thing is with our nurturing system, our intake system, we started this about 3 or 4 months ago, but we have pre-written messages, right? But once in a while, there's something that you want to insert, or some nugget with this potential client that may be really specific to their case or their determination whether they're going to hire you or not. So now in our intake system, it's like, hey, you can use our pre-filled, already approved, all perfectly written with videos and links and everything, this nurturing. Or if this is someone that you had a little bit longer conversation, something specific, why don't you use over here in AI and insert a couple of emails in place of the ones that are already pre-canned, right? You know what we're going to do next is we're going to try to grab the information from their note field and then turn that into the automated drip series. That's coming soon, I think. But that's a pretty interesting way for nurturing. It's ideation. It's not putting a blog post on your web for SEO, because that's not good. Another way that we help a lot of our clients create a lot of video, a lot of content, 2, 3, 4 pieces every month. Usually takes them about an hour with our process, an hour and a half at the most. But one of the things they get stuck on is running out of things to say, because you only can say, I can save you from a DUI or divorce only so many times. So what a lot of our clients are doing, we're putting in there and helping get ideas from it. But a lot of pop culture attorneys react to, you know what, all of our family attorneys right now, I know not all of them, but I bet I know a couple, I bet there's a bunch that are writing about Jen Benifer, right? Right? Is it Ben Affleck and J-Lo, right?
Yeah.
Divorced for the 17th time, I think. Like Harry and Meghan, they're going to get divorced, right? And what does that do with if you live in California? So with criminal defense attorneys that are breaking down sports athletes that are getting arrested, there's enough content for there forever. But the great idea is taking your concept and say, hey, turn this into a short script for me with 3 points, an intro and outro, summarize it at the end, and here's the topic that I want. And when we do that, it's like, wow, I've got about 85% of the script written for me. So some of these things, that's what we're doing. Other times, we're taking some of their content and turning them into blog posts with these things. But the most practical usage of it right now in the area that I'm talking about is in the nurturing of the leads that are already in your funnel. Content, not ideas, but assistance in creating content better. But what I like about some of the things that you've done on a practical basis, I'd love to ask you that question, because on our side, remember, we deal with the client acquisition. So AI is on the front of marketing. Our questions are, now if everybody can create content like this, what does that do for the good content that we created? Now, if there's content everywhere, then there's just too much. Same with AI with video. If they don't figure out a way to be able to tag these, we're gonna have to learn different ways to market, because it's such a crowded field. When you type in create a video with this, boom, 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 there you go. It's close to that already.
Yeah.
Right? There's a couple companies that are doing it real close. By the time this probably launches, they'll probably be ready, right? But it's coming at you fast. So use things to enhance what you're currently doing. Stick to the business of lead generation, nurturing your leads, serving your clients, and then figuring out what you can automate. And when you start doing automation, then that's an easy way for AI to poke into. Because I think a lot of AI is streaming right now into the corporate space, in the corporate law departments, which there's a lot of money there. I think a lot of companies are working on self-help AI for general consumers. And I think the law firms that are dealing with businesses and people right now, I think they're way behind on looking to what it can do and to leverage it. That's kind of my opinion of AI right now.
Well, I think that's all good stuff, and those can definitely make a difference. I found personally that when I use AI, one of the things I use it for is just organization. So I'm not really looking at it for give me the answers or the secret to the universe. It's basically like, I know that my notes are disorganized. I know that, it could make more sense, and it helps me to do that. And so it's been a good partner that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to know, for the benefit of the lawyers that are tuning in, maybe you could share like a couple of common mistakes that they're making, a couple of common marketing mistakes that will probably ring a bell for them, and what your take on it is.
Yeah, those are really easy to come up with, because a lot of them haven't changed in many years, Maybe the ingredients or the platform's different, right? The first is making it all about you. There's this great attorney here in the Phoenix area, and I watch a lot of YouTube TV. I see him pop up. Hey, if you're considering a divorce or child custody or support, hello, my name is John. I will not fill it in because I've emailed him and said, please let me help you make these better because he's got a big budget. He's made it all about him. Hey, if you need X, Y, Z, A, B, C, I can do that for you. Just stop making all your marketing, turn it into a question that pokes a pain that your potential clients see every day. And those pains are what they ask you on intake or at the console. You know what their pains are. So don't stop making it about you. I have to tell you, if you're under a $5 million firm, probably stop investing in SEO. It's just there's not much room for it anymore. There's some spaces, this is very controversial. We have an SEO department and they do really good work and they make the phone ring. But the amount of competition, and now with the release of Google Gemini, which not many of you guys know what that is, but it's when you go now search in Google, they give you the answer without sending you to any site. And now they're giving you, I made a video about this, about what's your journey going to look like. And I don't want to get off on this topic, but what's your journey going to look like for SEO, AI, and pre-AI? Currently, without AI, you'd be like, okay, I'm in California, high net worth. I need to get a divorce. Okay. Oh, this is a no fault state. Okay, what is that? No, another web search, no fault state. Okay, so what's child support? I got 3 kids. Okay, what's the child support with 3 kids? Another search, right? So now, and then you got 3 more, and then you refine and refine and refine, and some of those articles are from law firms, and then you go click on another one, and you don't remember, right? And then they come up with their answer, and then they go look for a law firm. Normally, back in the day, what would be the best thing, and still working well, write an article about what they would be searching for, and then make it at the end, give them an invite to contact your firm, right? But now if they're using Google, all of that is in there. It's all answered. And now what Google AI is doing, it's actually suggesting, hey, you should be thinking about these other things. I don't know if you've seen that, Tom. Mm-hmm. And then here's another search or a question if you want to get more details. All so they can stay within that Google Gemini AI box. So now you got local service ads, you got pay-per-click at the top, you got it at the bottom, you got it in the middle, you got YouTube videos that are showing up on the first page because Google owns YouTube, right? And then where's your SEO set? And how many times have you scrolled to the second page? If you're under $5 million firm, there's a lot easier opportunity for you than invest. You have to have basic, but don't be putting big budgets behind it. The other thing is, if you're not using video, you're going to be seen as old-fashioned, right? And there's easy ways you can create video. There's different ways you can create video. And if you're afraid, if you think you look stupid or silly, right? One, get over it or get somebody else in your firm to do it. But it really is the modern way of marketing. And when you create videos, it's like billboards that you can place everywhere for little to no cost. And if you take long form, like YouTube videos that are 5 to 8 minutes, and then you can slice them up into 4 or 5 short forms. So you don't have to create just short forms, right? And then you distribute them everywhere. So use video and then stop using single-use marketing. That's another tip. I hate, I'm an environmentalist, but it's not my passion or my drive or my call. I think I'm pretty approachable with this, and it's important in my life. But I hate single-use straws, but I hate paper straws. The whole analogy is I hate single-use marketing. I'm so frustrated. You only have so much time as an attorney. You only have so much work with your vendor or your marketing team, and you're creating shorts. Then you're creating a newsletter, and then you're creating a blog. Why don't you just create one video on the topic, regurgitate that for your blog, your newsletter, your shorts, your post, your reel, and then put it up on YouTube, put it on your website, and you do 2 of them a month, and you've got all your organic marketing taken care of. Simple. Just make it easy on yourself, right? Those are some of the biggest ones I'm seeing right now. If you ask me in 6 months, there'll probably be a couple new ones, but some of them won't have changed. But answer the damn phone on the first ring, and you'll just sign up more clients. If you don't even want to market, just answer the phone. It works.
Absolutely excellent advice. I totally agree with it. And I wish that more lawyers did too. So for the lawyers listening, how could they keep in touch with you and learn more about what you do?
Yeah, well, we've got rainmakerretreat.com is a great place to start with us. That's our event that we really have been running for the last 15 years. And that's the business education that you didn't get in law school. It's a 3-day event. That's a great place to stay in touch with us. The other is our website is the rainmakerinstitute.com. But if you go there and you go to rainmakerinstitute.com/LawDroid, we're going to have a little bit more special information on some of these intake strategies and some of these automation things that I was talking about. So check us out at the Rainmaker Retreat. We have 1 to 2 of these a year. They're amazing. They transform you from an attorney into a CEO. And then if you want more information about our services, the rainmakerinstitute.com is a great place.
Wow, LawDroid listeners and watchers, they have their own like little sub page to go to.
We got you a landing page, so we'll give you some information on what we were talking about today, because I think that one, you need to know how to run your firm with numbers, right? You need to know what those numbers are, and you need to know how to run your intake. So we're going to put a couple little free gifts out for no obligation. You can't buy anything on that page. I'm not going to sell you anything. I just want to teach you. You know, Tom's become a good friend. He's got good information that he puts out. He's got good tools. I want to teach his community because I feel like it comes back around, that whole rising tide, raising ships thing. But yeah, go to /LawDroid. I'm sure we'll put the link in the podcast as well.
Well, I totally appreciate that. And before we close, just one last question. And that is, for you, with all of this, what makes it worthwhile for you at the end of the day?
You know what? Being a business owner is a lot more fun than most people know, but being a business owner is a lot more hard than people know. My work-life balance did not become balanced until I made it become balanced. And I did that with getting a leadership team and then turning myself into 4-day work weeks. Now I'm working on 3.5-day work weeks. But the balance is so key because my family paid that price, right? And all too many people do that. When my kids get into high school, my life kind of freed up to allow me to enjoy some of these things. So being the owner of Rainmaker, it's afforded us vacations and travel and experiences that we never would have been able to have before. But ultimately, I go back to what I did when I was in the trenches. My first office was in the basement of a company that sold copiers and printers. And I was in their basement. That was my first office. Ever since then, I've been grinding for the business owner because I was a business owner and I knew how difficult it was. So that's really my why. I love that I can spend time with my family. I love it because I'll go to these shows and the attorneys will come back and they'll give you hugs and you've changed their life and you've given them direction. And that's a pretty neat place to be.
That certainly makes it worthwhile. And
It
it was worthwhile speaking with you and getting to share this time. So I really appreciate it. Thank you, Phil.
This has been great. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
And thank all of you for watching and tuning in to the LawDroid Manifesto podcast. See you next time.
Thank you so much for watching the latest episode of the LawDroid Manifesto podcast. To keep in the loop about upcoming episodes, please subscribe to LawDroid Manifesto and you'll get notified. Thanks for watching. See you next time.